Josh, you can start anytime you want. Good afternoon and welcome. We're at our fourth and final session for releasing our spiritual Hametz. And I'm very happy to see so many participants here again with us. I have to say, once again, I've so truly appreciated your attendance, your input, and I look forward to hearing more from you today. So today we're going to talk some about relational freedom, spiritual connectedness and freedom, and getting ready for Passover and for the Seders, which begin Saturday evening. So I'd like to open the floor. Remember to unmute yourself, please, and I'd like to know how you're doing, how your Pesach preparations are going. I'm curious if you have had an opportunity to use any of the books, suggested exercises. It's okay if you haven't. It's meant to be used all year. And if you don't pull it out during this whole 8 days of Passover, which don't think you have to stop by Saturday. Pesach goes on for 8 days. Just keep it there. Keep it by your wherever you keep books, and especially as we get to Elul, I would say it's a good time to revisit the maybe not only in the context of freedom, but in the context of atonement and beginning again and a new year, looking at the different parts of ourselves and where do I want to be 6 months from now when it's Pesach again, or a year from now when it's Rosh Hashanah again. So anybody willing to tell me how things are?
I have a question that it doesn't really affect me, but given that Passover falls on Saturday, so it's in the, coming right out of the Sabbath, how do those people that observe Shabbat prepare for Passover? Is there a dispensation? Are they allowed to do the cooking on Saturday?
No, you have to get everything done.
Oh my God.
Before Shabbos.
Oh my God.
All the work is done before Shabbos. And then the Seder itself, if you're going literally, is not supposed to begin until after sundown. So Shabbos would be over.
Oh.
And
yeah, but I mean, that means you're preparing one of the big meals of the year 2 days in advance.
well,
I mean,
frankly,
Friday morning.
a lot of people have already koshered their homes for Passover and cooked their briskets, and food may already be in the freezer. It would be really hard to start that morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once Shabbos is over, you can light the ovens and heat things up. It can be at room temperature, whatever.
Mhm.
A question I have along those lines that maybe somebody here knows the answer to, and it may even be on the synagogue calendar. The last thing we do after we search for any traces of leaven, chametz left in our house, theoretically with a candle and a feather, and you put it in a wooden spoon and then in a paper bag, and then you're supposed to burn your chametz, which I assume must have, my question is, Josh, maybe you know, is it supposed to be, is it going to take place Friday afternoon before Shabbos?
I'm sorry, I had my speaker down. If you could repeat that.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the burning of chametz.
Yes.
Given that Pesach is right after Shabbat, the Seder, when does the chametz get burned this year?
Rabbi has 11:44 a.m. Friday morning to burn or destroy your chametz by this time, except for whatever you may need for your observance of Shabbat. On Shabbat, the last possible time to eat chametz Shabbat morning is 10:27 a.m. Followed by at 11:44 on Shabbat morning.
Oh, 11:44, everything is burned except what you're going to consume on Shabbat by 10 whatever in the morning.
And
Saturday morning.
Correct. And then at 11:44 Saturday morning is the time to destroy your remaining chametz, although not through burning, and to recite the declaration of nullification, which can be found on the link on our online programming spreadsheet through our website.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions or comments, feedback? Well, how are people's preparations going? Are you noticing any difference as you clean your house or prepare for Passover? Is there any difference from the work we've done for the last 3 weeks?
Hmm.
Mimi, are you unmuted or is your speaker isn't
Can you
loud
hear me
enough?
now? Can you hear
Yes,
me? Okay.
yes.
There's a lot of emotional work for myself that's gone on over the past period of time. As you all know, the last 2 years have been very, very challenging for me. And as I go forward, and at this point, I'm feeling well and I'm on a very, God willing, an upward swing with this whole thing. But of trying to leave the harshness of the past 2 years behind and move forward with hope. I'm always with hope, but move forward and just, it was harsh. I know how hard it was. I lived through it. And okay, enough. Now we can leave that in the past and move forward, is what has been a big part of the work I've been doing because of the class and because of Passover and you and going forward.
How lovely. Thank you. I appreciate your sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's one of my questions also was going to be, one of the things we talk about is what do we take as we leave our narrowness and as we go through this inward search? We don't want to get rid of everything. What are we going to keep and what are we going to release?
Yeah, well, I'm releasing the harshness. The
Good.
harshness can stay in the past.
Great.
Yeah.
Another way, if you're not sure what to do with that, is to take different character traits, attributes of yourself, and look at where it serves you and where it gets in your way. For instance, you may be a very humble person, but you also might be too humble. So your humility can be a gift and can keep your character going strong, or it can be something that gets in your way. And that's looking at, like, we're not throwing everything out. We're just saying,
No, I'm taking the strength I've gained.
oh, I wasn't talking about the harshness. No, I was
Oh, I'm
talking
sorry.
just, I'm
Okay.
sorry, my
Okay.
apologies. I just meant,
Okay.
I wasn't directing that to you. I appreciated what you said about the harshness. And then I moved into other feelings and traits of ourselves. But yeah, like you're just saying, the harshness was awful, but it gave you a lot of strength.
Tremendous amount. And that I'll take with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back to
Nice.
what you were saying. Sorry.
No, thank you. I'm glad we clarified that. But even, and I think we've touched on this before, as you go through that wheel of physical and emotional and mental and behavioral, it doesn't mean now I've identified this, and I have to get rid of it all. It may mean I want to keep this and I want to keep what I learned from it without the difficulty of X, Y, or Z. And so that's another exercise, if you will, to do mentally or journaling. I also wanted to say, when I talk about journaling, writing isn't the only way to journal. Some people have said, well, I don't like to write and I don't want to keep a journal. You can do a journal through collage. You can do a journal in a sketchbook. Journaling, cutting out pictures from magazines of different moods and feelings and what does it evoke in you. In fact, it's even more interesting sometimes if you make it a 3D journal and, something you see when you're on a walk that reminds you of a way that you're feeling or a way you want to be. You can bring that home and tape it in your journal. So I'm just putting that out there, that it is not only about sitting with a pen and paper. Yes, Chris.
I was just thinking that, I mean, that it's interesting that this, for this Passover and for me for Easter, that it all coincides with sort of the beginning of the end of COVID. Because so much of the past year has been wrapped up in COVID and all the things we've had to do that we didn't want to do. Maybe there was hurt, maybe there was anger, maybe there was frustration, maybe there were in my family, I was surprised to have some very differences of opinions, even about masks. And so, I think a lot of it has, and I've also been waiting. I have a new 6-month-old grandson that I haven't really held or gotten to know. And my second shot is Friday, so it's coming. The day is coming. So I think I've learned patience. There's just a whole lot that really has to be considered, I think, when you think about this past year. It's
absolutely
unlike any other.
For sure. And like we said in one of the earlier sessions, we've had our own literal plague. Maybe, God willing, maybe this was the final plague and we emerge from this and it helps us be free and in the world again. Janie.
So I like what Mimi said, and it is actually something I'm working on for myself. So I've had a major loss in the past couple of years. And instead of, oh my God, and wringing my hands, I've decided, and it's probably an outcome of reading the book, working on the book, working with you. I've started looking at pictures and smiling and being happy for what I had, not having what I've lost in front of me day in and day out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking and relishing what I had and trying to find some joy in my heart for what I had. And I'm working on that.
That's a very big step. Yeah, good for you.
Giving me comfort.
Good. Yeah. Okay, well, last week we were talking about relationships and boundaries, and we did some of the physical work of defining boundaries and having them possibly be semi-permeable so that we can have the good come in and the less positive can't get in. And did anybody have any experience with that or try any of that? That's okay, no grades. Keep it in mind. It might be something that you find useful at some point. And so let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to be free in a relationship? Chatty group today.
For me, it hinges on trust and to be able to be who I am and not feel like I'm being judged, to have someone listen to me and hear me, and also for me to have the privilege of listening and hearing from someone else, and just being there for each other, and open and not, you can talk about anything, even things that you haven't really spoke to yourself about.
Thank you. Very, very well put. So we all have that need, that existential need, I think, to be seen and be recognized for who we are. From infancy on, a baby, if it's developing in the right way, and if the mother is a nurturing enough mother, a baby looks up at its mother and at its father, at its caregivers, for the feedback that says you exist, you're here, I see you, I hear you, I'm going to help take care of you, and you can begin to communicate with me what you want and when you need. And unfortunately, in our lives today, we all have relationships, thank God, that are wonderful, but we also have relationships that can be very problematic and create our own sense of Mitzrayim, narrowness, not being allowed to be who we are. And what are some remedies when you find that you're in a relationship that doesn't feel free? What are your choices? As we go back to choice being the key word for freedom, what are your choices? Where's your power in those relationships?
Your power as an adult would be to from someone who's been in many relationships, it would be to talk it out, work it out, and think it out. You also have the choice to leave. You don't have to stay stuck in a relationship that's not healthy for you or that's not working for you on any level. And there's not enough time to go into that. But that's really what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good, thanks. Janie.
Well, I always come back to, when I said this in my practice to people, just as God created the world with words, words are very important. And so there's two ways with words I try to increase my freedom in relationships. First of all, I start with an I statement, not a you statement. I feel like I'm being forced into a narrow place. I'm using the theme of Passover right now, of course. I feel like I'm being forced into a narrow place. It's not what I want. I would like to feel free. And just saying that and starting with God created the world with words, I feel that it's heard well, especially if it's an I statement and not a you statement, because that's blaming someone else for putting you in a narrow space. But saying, I feel I'm in a narrow space changes that.
Great, thank you.
And I said there were two, but I'm going to be 72 in a month and I can't remember the second one.
Well, if it pops back into your head.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's a wonderful expression. I think that we experience different levels of freedom in different relationships, and we're all trying to move towards more and more freedom, which I guess, as I was saying that, I was thinking that I also wanted to get said that we dwell on these same things every year. And as we've said before, we start at the beginning, we go back to the beginning, and we talk about how, this year we're slaves, next year may we be free people. And yet the next year, there we are at Pesach again, at the Seder table again, saying, this year we're slaves. So I guess I'm saying we're never going to maybe get all the way free until maybe in the next world, but that part of our whole human experience is working with these concepts of how do I introduce more choice into my life? How do I bring more positivity into my life? How do I bring better relationships into my life? How do I let go of those relationships that aren't working so well for me? Or if it's somebody that I know I need to have in my life, how do I let go of their impact on me? Because I think one of the biggest things I've had to accept in certain relationships is I'm not changing anybody. Nobody's going to change because I want them to. And if I'm going to be in a relationship with that person, then I have to know how to breathe, how to find peace, while they may be doing things that could be driving me up a wall. And thank God that's not in my closest relationships. But there are those relationships that we all have, whether it's a family member or a friend or a next door neighbor. We have relationships that provide us the opportunity to feel really aggravated. And well, I mean, here we are. Look at this poor soul in Boulder. Look what he did with his feelings and his powerlessness and whatever. And that's the whole evil, most evil side of it. But if we can't deal with those feelings and manage to find some peace within ourselves, that's one of the ways it comes out, unfortunately.
I know what I wanted to say.
Oh, good.
I wanted to say, after you use the words, then you do a demonstration of what freedom looks like. It's not fair for someone to have to guess what freedom looks like for you. So an ongoing battle that starts every spring is whether you can open the windows or not. I'm just going to use that as a very,
Okay.
I'm an open the window kind of gal. Ricardo was not.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've started doing is, because we both know where each other stands, I've started, when I want to, opening a window. And if he goes by to close it, I'll say, are you really thinking of limiting my freedom and taking away my happiness for what it might do to the heating bill? It's a nice day outside. I want the fresh air. Think twice before you close that window. Just not letting it go by and sitting and stewing. So it's using the words again, but taking. I guess it's taking the freedom. And I'm using the window because it's something we fought about for decades.
Yeah.
Or do we fight about it? It is a back and forth, and it is annoying to me.
And
I'm sure it's annoying to him.
It's important. You don't just sit there and let X, Y happen. You say, well, this is the impact on me. And will you think about that again? Is that really something you want to do?
Right.
Or if it isn't, what's it about for you? And maybe you then understand why at that particular moment the window needs to be closed, and it doesn't become personally about you. It's because he was concerned about the heating bill and it was right near the thermostat. Who knows? But thank you. That's an excellent example.
But after 3 or 4 decades of this, it's not as simple as that.
I'm not saying it is.
I've made advances this spring in using your book. He understands the issue of personal freedom and that he's been limiting my enjoyment of life. Is that what he wants to do?
Which I'm sure the answer to that is no.
Well, he's trying to keep his hands off the windows.
Okay, good. No, I mean, knowing Richard, I don't think his motives have anything to do with limiting your happiness.
Correct.
Yeah.
But he didn't see it that way until I,
right.
made
that
it
was
clear.
Important for you to, no pun intended, frame it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that example. Okay, well, does anyone have any other concepts on or any thoughts they want to share on relations? And if not, we will move on to the spiritual component, which means what? What comes to your mind when we say spirituality?
My relationship with God and how it evolves and how it changes And I just got a letter from Rabbi Truboff this morning, email.
Mhm.
I have a very dear friend who's a rabbi. He was the rabbi at an Orthodox shul that I was a member of. Not that I'm Orthodox, I'm not at all. But I won an art competition and we became tremendous friends. And he's in Israel, and it's interesting. And I asked him, are your dreams coming true? Is this everything you wanted it to be? And I'm forgetting your original question, Kathy. Because
I was asking what spirituality meant to
oh
you.
my God. And actually, and Rabbi Truboff, that's a very spiritual relationship. I'm old enough to be his mother, but it was a very close relationship from the beginning. But his answer to my question, is it everything I wanted it to be, was simply, is anything ever?
Hmm.
Which is
Mhm.
a very honest, very Rabbi Truboff-ish
Mhm.
answer. It's a brilliant young man. So my relationship, so that, yeah, my
Okay,
spirituality
so one
is that,
expression of spirituality is in one's relationship to
yeah,
God.
to God, to a rabbi, to a teacher. Let's go take it down a level to like to Rabbi Truboff. I mean, it's a very spiritual relationship.
Mhm.
It's one based on just an understanding of principles and ethics and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and he's forever the teacher.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I would glean from that and also offer from what Susan was saying that there can be a wonderfully spiritual component in our relationships, not just with God, but in our relationship to ourselves and in our relationships with our friends.
Yeah.
That there are many ways to express love, and a deep friendship is a truly spiritual love and a blessing.
Yeah. 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 Fortunate.
So I think when I think of spirituality too, I think of connectedness, connectedness to God, connectedness to our friends, to our family, and also very much for me, connectedness to nature, to the physical world that God has created, and the beauty in the trees and in flowers and even a beautiful snowfall. As much as at one moment I may not like the cold, I can admire the beauty of snow and the natural universe. Yes, Barry.
I think that you have to set yourself up to be receptive to spirituality. I think you have to take yourself out of the mundane, put the mundane aside, and set your mind free and be willing to accept the other. Like when we,
Excellent point. And how do you set yourself up for
well,
spirituality?
for example, getting ready for Shabbat is a good example. If you stop your regular life, your everyday life, and sit down and just explore the other, it's very satisfying.
Thank you. And do you have special areas in your home where you feel more spiritual than others, or does it permeate throughout your home?
When I'm up in Lake George, it definitely is. Looking out at the lake and seeing nature is very spiritual,
Hmm.
and it's very easy to get into the right mood there, and you're away from everything. So I agree with you about nature too.
Mm.
That does it for me.
I think it can help to design our homes too, so that they reflect our spiritual reality. I really enjoy the Jewish art I have on my walls, and I like ritual objects, and of course a mezuzah And I keep my menorahs out all year. They're at the top of a bookshelf. And one time someone walked into my house and said, "Oh my God, do you have a menorah collection?" And I looked and I said, "Yeah, I guess I do." And I enjoy it. And I look at them all year, and different other candlesticks, my grandmother's candlesticks, my mother's candlesticks. So objects, and I think also the letting go of objects. I can feel much more spiritual when I'm not surrounded by clutter. And on Shabbat, I might just take papers and business work and whatever, and even just put it in another room that I know I'm not going to go into, because I don't even want to see it
Out of
on
sight,
Shabbat. What's that, Barry?
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, yeah. Problem is, I have to remember to get back to it and that it's still there. Somehow it doesn't go away. But I agree with you. I mean, I like the 25 hours of saying, this is a different time. This is what Heschel, Abraham Joshua Heschel has a very small book that's a wonderful book called The Sabbath. And he talks about Shabbat as an island in time, that it's a spiritual connectedness, 25 hours that we're given to not do, not create, but to just be, and be in the world. Perhaps it's a good day to, if to go to synagogue, if that's what you want to do, or feel the need to do, or to meditate, to sit outside and breathe. But anything that, certainly synagogue and prayer are one way of connectedness, and will help bring those good feelings of connected beyond yourself, connected to others, and connected to God, and connected to Israel and the Jewish people. But if you can't do that, or you can't do it by Zoom, just breathing, meditating, again, using the breath as that connection between the physical and the here and now, and the connection that we share with all of the universe. We're all, as we learned from the virus, we all breathe the same air. Did you want to say something, Jan?
Mute. The
Unmute.
dogs have been quiet. Rich hasn't, but they have. I
Okay.
just said to Rich, "You're limiting my freedom to hear." On the other hand, I'm giving him the freedom to put away the dishes. So
Oh, yep.
just yesterday, I was speaking to Mark Handelman about Shabbat, and I was saying that in theory, I keep saying I'm going to do Shabbat. I'm not religious at all, and I'm not spiritual. Rich, however, is my partner, who is 1% Jewish. So he says he's Jewish. And I have found that I never do laundry, never do cleaning, but sometimes even doing that, if it's on Shabbat, it's freeing. And so now I'm about half a day of Shabbat. And if it's in the morning, and I'm a morning person, I lose my mind in night, I can't even work anymore. But I find that if I do it, even if I'm working, if it's clearing something off my desk, writing a letter, whatever it is, phone call, that's actually part of Shabbat to me. It's sort of relaxing to get something. I'll let you know when I hit a 25-hour day. But
I mean, I'm not doing any pretense here either. I don't always do a 24-hour days. I try to stretch it longer and longer, because I like the feeling. And I find that at this point in my life, I find myself really looking forward to Shabbat, because I try to gauge my time around it. I try to get whatever has to be done by Friday early afternoon, because it kind of grows on you.
I'd like to make a challenge. I mean, when living 6 months of the year out here and being in my daughter's pod, Shabbat, it means no electronics. And everybody puts the kid and my two grandsons, they love it. They cheer for Shabbat because both their parents turn off their electronics and they have their attention. And and I've been trying to do that. I have not, however, turned off the TV. But you know, that's could be sometime. I don't know. I'm so addicted to the news, but you know, I think really freeing yourself, and you would pick it up. Anybody you care about, you tell them you can call and I will pick it up because I know it's very, very, very important. But otherwise, please don't text me with a new recipe or information that can wait until after Shabbos.
Hi,
So
Susan.
Hi, Mark.
Hi,
Yes.
Mark.
Hi, Mark.
So I think that, you know, you can even take 2 hours doing it. I'm kind of loving it. Really disconnecting electronically. It's a challenge, but you know, could be very freeing.
I think I think it's a challenge for all of us in the world we live in right now. And I think that most of us are not going to get to perfection on this either. We don't get there on anything. Why would we get there on this? But that is, as we keep adding or stretching the time, it does become addictive to say, I don't have to think about that now, or I'm not going to do that now, because this is my day to be really relaxed and comfortable and enjoy. Jan, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things we started, I know Barry was in on it and Kathy, don't remember if anybody else from our synagogue, about maybe once a month or whenever, and then COVID hit and everything else, just getting together for Shabbat. And one of the things I was talking about, when is Shavuot? I was asking Mark yesterday and saying, and I also think we're at the point where we're all balabustas, you know? I don't have to prove anything anymore. Somebody else can make the kugel or bring it in or whatever. And it's the idea of getting together, and I think aiming for Saturday afternoon. I can't wait till my gardens go into bloom. And Ellen, Temple Gates members are welcome. So
Well, I think that's
something like that will
Yeah.
make it Shabbat.
And we all are free to define what works for us, not to define the laws of Shabbat, because there are specific laws of Shabbat, but to interpret or to decide how we're going to observe or recognize that, no, I'm not able to do that at this time, but I'm going to do this, and just add a little by little to your life by doing whatever works best for you.
You know, you just hit something. I remember years ago, Bill or I were 1 minute late to my very religious mother-in-law to light Shabbos candles. I'm like, who cares? You know, we'll do it 5 minutes later. And Bill started playing tennis on Friday night, and I was really annoyed, but as the kids at first, but it gave me more time to really wrap up my office, which of course everybody knows is in my kitchen for the week. And he would come home, we'd have not a very big Shabbat dinner. It was probably just a big bowl of interesting chicken soup and challah. And he'd conk out in front of the Ruchai's report. The kids would go out, but we had that Shabbat meal together, and I wasn't frantic to get it on the table at 6 o'clock. And I miss that. And I was thinking about that, you know, when you started talking about that, I think, especially as conservative Jews, bend the rules that fit. It's the theory that's more important to me than the actual exact practice to the letter of the law.
And everyone has to define that for themselves. Janie?
I wanted to add that this year in particular, with the $1.9 trillion aid bill, I feel more connected to God. I feel like there's been such disparity in our country.
Mm.
And those of us who lead a safe life and a good life, my enjoyment of that was limited by the fact that other people didn't have a place to sleep, had food insecurity, their health needs weren't being met as much. And I feel like Biden and that bill has helped me to feel more just with the universe. You know, in Genesis, we're given dominion over the animals. Okay, so we're told to treat the animals a certain way, and we're not supposed to treat human beings that way, take care of their basic needs. So I live in a Trump neighborhood, sorry to say, but we put out a Biden sign and people come up to me and say, are you still okay that you voted for Biden?
Hmm.
And I'll say, well,
Even
I
more
thought
so.
you were, what?
Even more so.
Right. And I'll say, I see that you have a creche on your front yard, or I see you have a statue of the Virgin Mary. I assumed you were religious the way I'm religious. I'm just Jewish and religious. The truth is, we should be taking care of people less fortunate than us. And I feel more at peace with the universe because we are. I really do. And this Passover, I've been reflecting on that and how much more righteous this is. So one neighbor says, we're going to be spending $5 a gallon of gas. I said, it's not because of the rescue. It's because of the Houthi rebels burning the Saudi Arabian oil, whatever, I can't remember what they're called. Not the field, well, the place where they store the oil.
The refineries.
The refineries, thank you. And then, you know, the whole bit about the Alberta pipeline. That's not why we're going to spend $5 a gallon of gas. The oil's too acidic, it'll burn through the pipeline. That's why we have leaks in the port of Albany, because it burns through the cargo ships. People, I'm just finding that I found my voice. Not that I didn't have it. All of you here would think I did, but not out in public necessarily. I see Shelley laughing, because I know you all thought I had my voice. Well, you're all laughing, except for Chris. The truth is, I'm finding my voice, and that's why I put a Biden sign out, because I welcome people coming to talk to me about that. That's a freedom I now have.
Thank you. Beautifully stated. And courageous, very courageous. I am finding more and more of my voice, but I don't choose to always say something in public. I get afraid. And in today's world, I don't know how somebody's going to react.
You know, I wrote a letter to the Gazette after they had the 4th of July regatta with the Trump signs and the Confederate flag. And as I wrote it, I didn't reach the rabbi, but I reached, I spoke to the rabbi, and I didn't reach a good friend of ours who's also his friend, Pastor Carmen. And what crosses your mind as a Jew? Will there be a swastika on my house?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple of things that happened with you being president and so on. And so, you know, I said, how do I wait? Do I wait the fear? Okay, I'll paint my house. Or maybe if, of course, and the rabbi said, and I was told by the couple of people I spoke to who I felt would have a handle on this, said, it's unusual in this area. And the type of people would bother to read a letter to the editor anyway, wouldn't, you know, necessarily. But it was really, and I, you know, certainly Black people do this. I don't know if anybody's like me, but pretty much everything I do, especially if it's public, I process it through that I'm Jewish. And when I was younger and Janie Olin, and people thought I was, Owens and not Jewish and all that. Even in Brooklyn, they thought I wasn't. I was more sensitive and I overheard more things when people think you're not Jewish. It's not always pleasant.
Mhm.
You were Janie Olin?
Yes, my family calls me Janie. They
Oh,
still
how
do.
did you spell it?
76 years old, Janie, and I'm still Janie also.
Me too.
My mother thought Jane didn't sound as good with Olin.
It was, well, my mother thought it was too plain Jane.
Yeah. Then I married a vowel, so I stuck with Janet, which I hate. I became Jan when I met somebody who moved into the neighborhood and said, "Oh, Janet, another one." She was a Janet. You must have been born in the 40s. And I'm thinking very politely, "Mm-mm." And that's when I became Jan, like my 10-year younger neighbor.
Good.
You can call me Janie.
Okay,
Randy Fox is my cousin. She calls me Janie.
okay.
Okay, so we're going to move into our final parts of this today's session and of the course. And chapter 4 is entitled Ayeka, which is what God asks of Adam. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you in your journey to freedom? And I invite you, well, before the Seders, during the whole holiday of Passover, and as you read the Haggadah, I hope that just even if you do nothing to purposely prepare, I hope that as you sit down to your Seder and you begin to read the Haggadah, there will be some resonance with all that we've talked about and experienced here together. And as we said in the first session, we read the same book over and over and over, just as we read Torah over and over and over, because we bring something different to the experience each time. And it's not the same words. If we bring a new person to the experience, I look forward. I hope you'll send me feedback and tell me how your Seder was. And then don't put the book away. I mean, like I say, keep it and think about it. You have 8 days of Passover, and you have year after year after year to approach varying freedoms in all our parts of ourselves, because we're not going to get there. We just keep on trekking. I'd like to hear some final feedback or words, or do you think, how's your Passover going to be? How's your Seder going to be?
I think
Great.
mine will be wonderful because it's at your house. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. And we're doing Zoom with the Montlacks and Eli and Penny, and Chris Henry. So I'm very much looking forward to our Passover. But what was your original question, Kathy, about in terms of freedom?
Just, I don't know what my original question was.
Okay.
I was saying, I'm just wanting some feedback.
Your
And
question was, where are you?
oh,
Thank
Ayeka,
you.
where are you?
Okay,
Where are you? Thank you, Eli.
Okay, thanks, Eli. Well, I've waged war against RA, and I've done everything I know to do to get healthy, and that's my way to freedom, because you're very trapped when you're physically ill, you know.
Yes.
And so where I'm at with freedom is, it's positive. I'm in a good place of just working really hard, because for the first time, although they've been very encouraging, for the first time, I see a difference. So where I'm at in terms of freedom is to just keep working for it. I had heard freedom's whistle as a child. I was always dedicated to freedom, and it's just more of the same for me, really.
I hope you continue to progress to be free of all the disabilities and pain you've experienced, especially the last 2 years.
Thanks, Kathy.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anyone have any parting words to our group? Anything you'd like to say to each other?
I'd like to say thank you, Kathy, for convening us all. And gosh, so nice to see everybody
Mm.
and feel connected back to Niski, which will always be my home. But I think this has been really wonderful, and I truly appreciate that you brought us all together, Kathy, as you always do.
Well,
You always bring us together.
thank you.
No, I love you. I love you all, and I wish you a sweet, sweet Pesach.
We miss you.
All of
Sue.
you.
This is Pesach.
So
Well,
Kathy,
I really truly want to thank everybody here for your consistent participation.
Muted.
Frankly, I thought maybe we'd have 2 of us here today or 3 because groups do tend to dwindle, but you've just all been so remarkably participatory. And as was my hope in the beginning, I've certainly learned from you and truly, and I look forward to sharing our experiences. I think most of you have my email, Kath, K-A-T-H, Engelbart @hotmail.com. And please, I'd love to hear feedback about the course. I'd love to hear suggestions for other exercises. Whatever your experience with any of this has been, I would love to get the feedback. And I will be interested if anybody feels any impact from all we've studied together during their Seder and during this year's Passover and beyond.
It was fabulous, Kathy. Wait, let's hand for Kathy. It was wonderful. It was absolutely a wonderful class. And the group was wonderful. Wait, it's been wonderful for me to come here. And I mean, Kathy's a great group leader. She's done it for a long time and she excels at it. And it's been a pleasure
thank you.
getting to know the Niskayuna community even more. You guys are great and you've been so kind to me. And so thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
It's really been my pleasure. And I want to thank Josh Cooper Ginsburg, our executive director at Congregation Agudat Achim, and Rabbi Rafi Spitzer for allowing us to come together and have this time. I want to again emphasize, I am not a rabbi. Anything I have said has come from my personal study, my own persona. Please, in terms of the laws of Shabbat and Passover and living your lives, please consult your local rabbi. I defer to the rabbinic authorities.
I too want to thank you, Kathy, and it was wonderful seeing everyone here because we've all been, even if we're in Niskayuna, we're out of touch. So
yeah,
at Lake George this summer, we can see each other. That would be wonderful. But a lot to digest and hopefully we can
Good.
all process it.
Everybody continue to stay well, please. Wear your masks. It's still out there. Get your vaccinations. Be well, stay safe. And I love you all. I thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kath.
Thank you.
Aziz
Bye.
Pesach.
Bye.
Season
Bye.
Pesach.
Pesach.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.